attorney Laura Sterling. What month are we in? April. Oh my gosh, this year is just flying by, right? I know the weather has been absolutely crazy throughout the United States. Remember, I told you my parents, they live up in Minnesota. You know that it was still snowing as of, I think, this week or last week, which is crazy, right? I mean, being down here in Florida, we're upset when it's a little chilly. This morning it was like in the 50s, so that was a little cool for me. I was like, oh, I need a sweater, but now it's like in the 80s, so it doesn't matter. But welcome, everybody. Welcome to my live show. As you know, every month we have our live show and we pick a topic and we go with it. I do my little videos throughout the month to kind of lead you up, give you a little teaser as to my live show. Well, I have a little announcement. I don't know if I told you about it last month, but I'm going to tell you about it this month. I'm actually going to be doing a podcast. I know. Can you believe it? Well, it's not for lack of talking, because of course, as you know, I love to talk. Talking is, it's a second. It's like breathing to me. So that's not the issue. It's the topics. The topics are going to require me to do some research, and I'm very excited about it because I mean, even before I became an attorney, I was very interested in what's going on in the United States as far as legally. These cases that are out there that are taking all of our attention. We just got done with the Murdoch trial. Now we're coming up to other things. What just happened, I think, yesterday, where Fox News settled with the voting machine company because over a defamation case and the amount of money that they settled for was astronomical. I guess Fox News has a lot of money to throw around, but um, so that was pretty exciting. I had to stop and take a moment and listen to that because that was very interesting to me. So I enjoy those, what do they say, hot topics that are going on in the United States because it affects us all, at least us in the United States. Those outside the United States, you might just be interested in it to know more about it, but it just intrigues me. So that's kind of what my podcast is going to be about. I'm going to be talking about the hot topics that are going on in the United States. And again, as you know, I'm only licensed in Florida. So even my live shows just talk about the laws in Florida. So if you're outside the state of Florida, you got to check with your attorney in your area or in your state. And so for me doing the podcast, yes, I'm going to be talking about different issues throughout the United States, but I'm also going to be kind of connecting it to Florida law because that's what I know and that's where I'm licensed to practice. So look forward to that. We'll be launching that in May. It's actually called Law Time with Laura. I know you thought, I'd come up with something a little more original, but hey, it works, with the L's. I thought it might work. So we were going to do lunchtime, but it's recorded and it goes out there and it might not be your lunchtime when you're listening to it. You might listen to it on the way home from work, on the way to work, maybe before you go to bed, maybe, while you're just relaxing, having a nice little coffee or tea or a mate, whatever you may be having at that moment. So anyway, that's what we're going to be doing too. So not only are we going to be doing the Facebook Live, the YouTube Live, we're also going to be doing a podcast. So just more for you to get a little more information than you had before and getting other people's views and my views. And maybe I'll have some guest speakers. We're just starting out. So I just want to kind of get comfortable before I have guest speakers come on board and you can listen to their points of view as well, because as you know, I don't have the only point of view. So again, I want to welcome you all. I want you to sit back, relax, enjoy. Hi, Michael. How are you? Yeah, I think I've seen you before. You have a new emoji, though, it looks like. So that's a little interesting emoji. But nice to see you, too. I'm glad you could join us. I'm always happy to see my repeaters. They're always good. So I want you to sit back, relax. You too, Michael. Sit back, relax, have your popcorn, have your water, have whatever you're doing. I haven't yet eaten yet, but that's okay. I do better on an empty stomach than a full stomach. I do have my water bottles here to help keep me hydrated so that I don't get dry because we're going to be talking about a pretty big topic today. So I want to make sure that you're all ready, you're all set. It might take a little bit. We do have finally, newscaster Laura's back from traveling the world. She was in Colombia, she was in Argentina. So she's finally back in the United States and off of her little trip so that we can use her. So we're going to be talking about a new bill that's coming into law here in Florida. Remember, everything I talk about is Florida. So you need to make sure if you're outside that you check with an attorney in your state. So take a deep breath, roll those shoulders back, get comfy, get whatever you're going to eat, get whatever you're going to drink, and we're going to start the process. Let's go to newscaster Laura. Hello, it's newscaster Laura, and I welcome you back. I'm so glad to be back in the United States. I had a very nice trip to Colombia, Bogota, and to Buenos Aires, Argentina, but now I'm back. And today I'm going to talk about Senate Bill 130 here in the state of Florida. It addresses domestic violence in divorces and separations when there are children. Now, it's titled what we call the Grayson's Law. And what the Grayson's Law, it comes from a 4-year-old who was murdered, had a murder suicide by his father. The mother and the father had separated. The father had been stalking, had been threatening, all of those things. And she tried to get an injunction, and they were told she didn't have enough evidence. Then she proceeded to give the child over to the father, as expected in the time-sharing plan. And she didn't hear from the father for 24 hours. She attempted to get another injunction. It was denied. She called the police finally to go do a wellness check. And unfortunately, what happened was the father killed the child and then killed himself. So the child's name was Grayson. And that's why we're calling it kind of the Grayson's Law here in Florida. What it does is it adds language to the current Florida statute that requires time sharing, how the court determines the time sharing and the parental responsibility, which is under Florida statute 61.13. There's several factors in there. One of the factors is domestic violence, but it really was a vague area of the law. It really was kind of vague. Was there any evidence of domestic violence? Well, that is an interpretation, right? And so what the law says is giving more guidance to the court. What it's saying is that the court shall order the parental responsibility for minor child be shared unless it's detrimental. And then it kind of spells out what exactly they should look at. Is there any pattern? Has there been any threats? What is there? I mean, in this case as well, he put trackers on her car. He said that she would be better off decapitated. Those kind of things, unfortunately, didn't show a pattern in the old law, but now they can. So it makes it a little easier for the person who's being abused to show to the court, hey, wait a minute, this is what's happening to me. Here's the pattern. Here's the issue that's going on. I need protection and my child needs protection. So please put that into effect in our court order and in the injunction. So that's what's going on. Hopefully that will go into effect July 1st of this year, and we can start using it in domestic court. Thank you very much. We go back to Attorney Laura. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that, newscaster Sterling. That was fabulous. So, what are we doing today? What are we doing? We are going over the parenting plan. I know those of you who maybe don't know, what is a parenting plan? Oh, I see I have some people on here. Hi, Agus. Good afternoon. How are you? And hi, Paula. Great to see you. I'm so glad to see everybody. I see I have some repeaters coming back, so I'm very excited about that. This tends to be a very popular topic when we talk about divorces and separation and the children. They seem to be very popular topics, so that's why I wanted to go through it again. So the parenting plan in Florida, a parenting plan, think of it like a map of how you and your former partner, the other parent, are going to co-parent these children or child, right? It's a map. It has you go through it, and it's required by all cases where there's children. There's always going to be a parenting plan. There's never like, oh, Your Honor, we've just decided we're just going to work it out ourselves. No, the judge will be like, NO, because guess what? When you say, oh, hey, we're good now. We realize we shouldn't be together. We're getting a divorce. We're getting along good. What do you think the parenting plan is for? The parenting plan is for when you're not getting along, when you don't agree. There it is. It's like a contract. When we look at a contract as an attorney, we look at the four corners of the contract and we say, okay, what's contained in the contract? We can't go outside of the contract. We can't go, if you watch Judge Judy, I love watching her. She'll say, okay, what's in the four corners? Well, yeah, but that's in there, but we agreed separately orally. When you come to court, we look at the four corners of the contract. And so think of the parenting plan as a contract. We look at it when there's a dispute. We settle the judges settle the dispute in court based on the four corners of the contract. So that's where it is. Now, of course, let's say you have a perfect parenting plan. It's fabulous for that moment. But guess what? Things change. A parenting plan certainly can be modified. It can be modified based on a significant change in circumstance. And unfortunately, we don't have the time to go into that right now, what exactly pertains or defines as a significant change in circumstance. That's really a case by case basis. And that's where you really need to see an attorney and have the attorney decide, okay, based on the case law, based on the statute, you have a good um, significant change. For example, let me give you an example like child support. If you lose your job unexpectedly, you're laid off, or your company closes and now you have no income, you can petition the court to modify child support. So that's just an example of a change in circumstance. But anyway, let's move on to the actual parenting plan. If we could put the parenting plan up, I'm going to put it up so it's a visual for you. I don't know if you're like me. I'm a very visual person, and I need a visual. I can't move this though. There's nothing to move this. My IT people. Oh, there's nothing. Oh, there we go. Slide. I got it. I got it. Don't worry. This is a visual of the parenting plan. If you're like me, you need a visual. You need to see it. So I thought, what's the best thing to do? For me to sit here and spew out to you what's on the parenting plan? No, I'm just going to show it to you. So let me show you. This is the first page of the parenting plan. At the top, of course, is a case style, who the parties are, what the case number, all of that. Then we move on to, is this a parenting plan that you guys agreed to? Is this a parenting plan that was issued by the court? What is it? Who is it? And how is it created? Is it a final? Is it a temporary? What is it? Then we also put all of your information, right? The court needs to know your name, your address, your telephone number, your email, where are you, all of that. Both parents need to keep each other informed of what's going on. Hey, I want to let you know my phone got destroyed or my phone got lost, which seems to happen a lot, and my phone number changed. Here's my current phone number. And why does the court require you to do that? It requires you to do that so that you guys have to co-parent and you guys have to be able to get in contact with each other. What if something happened with the child? What if something happened with you? You have to be able to get a hold of each other. And if you switch phone numbers, or you switch addresses or anything like that, the other parent needs to know. They need to know so they can get a hold of you or you can get a hold of them. So we always want to make sure that we have our information updated. Some people ask for that confidential, that their address be confidential. Maybe there's a protective injunction in place. They're afraid of the other parent, whatever it may be. But then there needs to be a backup for contact. Like, okay, if I don't want him to call me directly, or I don't want him, there needs to be a backup. He can call so-and-so, a third party, to let him know. So just always having a backup. Then we move into the children or child. What children are being addressed in this parenting plan? Now, let me tell you a secret because I've gotten this a lot lately. Well, one of my children is 18 years old, but they're still in high school. Do we do a parenting plan for them? No. Now, we still would do child support for them because they're still in school, but we don't do a parenting plan. Why is that? Because 18 is the age of majority here in the US, right? They're adults. So how are we going to do a parenting plan for an adult? We're going to tell an adult, okay, you got to go see your dad. I wish somebody could do that for my son, right? Okay, son, you have to come and see us every other weekend. Wouldn't that be nice? But it's not enforceable. So we don't include any children that are over the age of 18 on a parenting plan. They have to be under the age of 18. So it can be 17 and 6 months. We do a parenting plan. Now, maybe a little different for somebody that's that old. Maybe they have, not as much, or maybe they can gear it a little better, but it has to be if it's a minor child. So an 18-year-old still in school, no parenting plan, but still child support. Then we talk about jurisdiction, obviously. That's kind of legal mumbo jumbo. Where do you live and who's taking jurisdiction? The state of Florida, what city, who's going to take venue. Then we talk, and here's a hot topic, and I did my one of my videos this month on it, the parental responsibility and decision making. Now, 9 times out of 10, you and your partner, your former partner, or your former spouse or whoever that's co-parenting with you, you'll have shared parental responsibility. Now, a lot of people get confused with that, thinking that has something to do with the time sharing or the custody. It has nothing to do with that. All it is decision making. I try to make it clear to my clients by saying shared decision making. That way they don't go, well, wait a minute, no, I want the child. No, no, no. Shared decision making, shared parental responsibility. You both make major decisions regarding these children together. So, what would that be? Maybe it's what religion they practice, or maybe which school they attend. Maybe they're attending a public school and now you're wanting to have them go to a private school. That's something you need to discuss with the other parent. That's a major decision. Healthcare, maybe if they're seeing certain doctors or they have to see certain doctors, those are stuff that you two should be making together. Now, there is going to be another idea is also the shared parental responsibility with ultimate decision making. So what that is you're sharing responsibility. You should confer, but if the other parent is not being cooperative, then who has the ultimate decision making? Because somebody has to make a decision, right? Somebody has to make a decision about schooling, somebody has to make a decision about healthcare, all of that. And if the other parent is just like not even responding or not, then somebody has to have the ultimate decision making. That's kind of rare. I haven't done that very often because it's kind of confusing to both parents about, well, wait a minute, I have a decision on this, I don't on this. It can be very confusing. Sole parental responsibility. That means one parent, and I'm going to repeat that, one parent only makes decisions regarding the children. That means there's no conferring with the other parent. You're it. And let me tell you when this comes into play a lot of times is passports. I can't tell you how many times that I've dealt with passports. So when when you're getting a passport for a minor, at least before the age of 16, you have to have both parents. And the Department of State doesn't care what the two of you are going through. They want a court order that shows them that you're the only one that can get that passport. They don't care. Well, I've never spoken to them. I don't know where. They don't care about that. It's a federal agency. They want to see a court order. They want to see something that they can hang on to. And so that's a lot of times. Now, when they turn 16, you only need one parent because it's only good for a few years after that. So, but that's really where it's sole parental. And then, of course, education, medical, all that they have sole parental. Now, day to day decisions, obviously, either parent, if they have them, they should be making those day to day decisions. Can little Susie eat waffles for breakfast or pancakes? You're not going to be calling the other parent to ask them. Those are day to day decisions that you should be able to make. So then we move on to extracurricular activities. What does that mean? Well, what are extracurriculars? Now, we all know if we have kids what extracurriculars are, right? Let me tell you what my son was in. He was in band, he was in cross country, he was in tennis, he was in swimming, he was in basketball, he was in flag football. He took piano lessons. The list goes on and on and on, right? We're constantly going in these kind of directions. Luckily, I just had one, so that kind of contained me. But if I hear parents that have multiples that are moving all over the place, I don't know how they do it. They must have a huge calendar. But extracurricular activities are just that, those extracurricular activities. And 9 times out of 10, those extracurriculars require money, right? So who's paying it? Generally, what we do 50-50. Each parent is 50% responsible. Now, you can put a disclaimer in there, as you see. The parents must mutually agree to all curricular, I don't have a hard time with that word, curricular activities, my Minnesota accent. You want to have that in there because you must both agree. Otherwise, if you don't agree, then whoever whoever registers them would be responsible, because you don't want to have it open ended that you both pay 50% and then one parent is enrolling them in absolutely every single activity that there is known to man in the school, and you're forking out all this money and you don't have it. You just don't have it. You have the right to say no. Hey, I can't afford it right now. I'm spent out. But if the other parent wants to go ahead and register them and pay it, go at it. I'll help out with driving them there, with taking them there, with all of that kind of stuff, but I just can't afford it. So you can always put that in there. I would advise you put that in there so that you make sure that you cover yourself. So anyway, then we move on to information sharing. You should always, inform the other parent of everything. They should always, both parents should be on all medical records, school records, anything like that. They should have free reign to get whatever information they can get regarding the children. So make sure that both parents are on there as emergency contacts. So anyway, then we have scheduling. Scheduling, the time sharing. This is it. We're going to dwell into it. This is it, the time sharing schedule. We call it the time sharing schedule. Years ago, before the law changed, we used to call it primary parent and secondary parent. We used to call it custody, but we don't anymore, because what does that sound like? Primary parent, secondary parent, what does that sound like? Sounds like one parent has more to gain than the other one, right? That one has more power because they're the primary. They have more power. And the secondary is down here. They don't have as much power. And that's not true. Both parents are equally responsible for these children. So we changed it into time sharing, a parenting plan. We had a heck of a time when the law changed, trying to come up. I remember being in front of a judge and I was like, okay, the parent that the child spends a majority of the time with. But now I just say time sharing, parenting plan, time sharing schedule. It works out much better. We generally go, okay, what county do the children go to school in? That's where we kind of go off the schedule. So is it Orange County, Seminole County, Brevard, Volusia, Leon, whatever it is, we generally go by the school. And of course, if you have kids in different school districts, which would be kind of crazy, then you can put down, okay, we go by the oldest child's school schedule, we go by the youngest child's school schedule. We talk about academic breaks. You know what they are. Those are like spring break, summer, Thanksgiving, Christmas, certain days like Martin Luther King Day. I can't remember if we get President's Day off, Labor Day, Memorial Day, those kind of things. So that's what we kind of define as academic breaks. Then schedule changes. You're going to want to address this, because if suddenly you're sitting there and you've got your plans, you're ready to go, and you have the child ready for the other parent, okay, and the other parent doesn't show up or doesn't even call to say, hey, I'm stuck in traffic. I don't know about you all, but here in Orlando, traffic is crazy. So if they don't call you or they don't show up or whatever, who is responsible to now pay for, maybe that parent had to cancel, or now they have to get daycare or something? Who's responsible for that? So that's what you like to address in that schedule changes. Now the time sharing schedule. I should have some music. Do, 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 do. Time sharing schedule, weekday and weekend schedule. And when does this begin? And what child? Obviously, it's for all the children. So we talk about which parent, mom or dad. Okay, how are we going to do this? Are we going to do week on, week off? Are we going to do every other weekends? How are we going to do it? That's how this is going to be spelled out right here. When is the child or the children going to spend time with mom? And when are the children going to spend time with dad? That needs to be spelled out right there. So it's all in writing. Like I said, it's a contract. So you have it. Now you guys can always work together. Hey, I've got this up. Can you take them this day? You can always do that. That's completely up to you. This is, again, for when you don't agree, and it gives structure to the child to know when the child's going to be somewhere. So that is just regular time sharing, weekday and weekend schedule. That's all that is. Then we move on to the holiday schedule. Whew. This one, let me take a drink, because this one always takes quite a while, and it usually takes a lot of fancy kind of maneuvering. I would never put holiday time sharing shall be as the parties agree. Never, 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 never. Because guess what? If you don't agree, then what? Then what happens? then you're out of luck, right? So never, ever, ever make a schedule. Make a schedule. So if there's no holiday time sharing, you're just going to continue with the regular time sharing for all the holidays. Fabulous. I don't know if that's your best bet, but if that's what you want to do, again, this is your life. This is how you're going to raise your children. This is what you need to do. So we have holiday time sharing in here. So we have Mother's Day, Father's Day, usually with either parent. These other kind of holidays, President's Day, Martin Luther King Day, Easter is, on a Sunday. Maybe they have Friday off, maybe they don't. That's something you can talk about. If you're Jewish, maybe Passover, Memorial Day weekend, July 4th, Labor Day, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, all this kind of stuff can be decided. Or you can just say, hey, regular time sharing, whatever you want to do. Or you can flip flop it. Okay, I'll have them even years, you have them odd years. So it's really up to you. Winter break. That is the Christmas and New Year's holiday. Generally here in Florida, it's roughly like 14, 15 days, somewhere around there. So what we sometimes do is we split it in half. Okay, for example, mom, you get the first half in even years, dad, you get the second half in even years. And then we flip flop it in odd years. So the one who has the first half of the break, they get Christmas and Christmas Eve. The one who has the second half gets New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So that's how we do it sometimes. Or we just say, hey, I get all the Christmas break, the entire Christmas break, and even years, you get it in odd years. Again, this is something you can agree to. If you don't, then the court just decides. But if you agree to it, that's fine. So sometimes we do that where a parent gets the entire break if they're long distance. Maybe they live out of state. They don't get to see the children as much. So they take the whole break. And that's okay. As long as then you set a day when they pick up the children and then when they return the children, and usually a couple days before school starts, because with your kids, you got to kind of calm them down, calm them to get ready. Okay, you got to get up at a certain time, get them ready for school. So spring break, again, that here is generally, again, 10 days, I think, Friday to a Monday. Parents can split it. They can keep the regular time sharing, or one parent can keep the whole thing and one parent can, they can flip flop. So it's really, again, up to you or the court decides. Then we have summer here in the state of Florida, 10 weeks, count them, 10 weeks. What does that mean? You can split it in half, 5 and 5, right? Or if they live out of state, they get a majority of it because they don't get to see the children as often, or you keep the regular time sharing, whatever works for you. Again, an agreement. And then we also have Thanksgiving. Now, I want to revert back to Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving, I don't even know. I mean, my child's been out of high school since 2016. So I have kind of a block on it. But I think that it generally goes from Wednesday to Monday, or sometimes it goes Monday to Monday, depending, especially here in Florida with all our hurricanes. It really depends on hurricane makeup days, and up north, probably snow days. But we generally will maybe split the Thanksgiving day, actually, or maybe one parent has a whole break and then next year the other parent. Maybe one parent has Thanksgiving one year and the other parent has Christmas, and then you flip flop it. So, and now you may ask the number of overnights. Oh, hi, Marissa. Oh, I remember you from before. You've been here before, right? Because I see the Disney background. I need to know if grandparents or other family members can be included in a parenting plan. Well, I guess I need more information. As far as like pick up and drop off, you generally can put them in there saying, grandma and grandpa can pick up little Johnny and can be a part of that. Or childcare. We'll get to childcare here, and it'll say, grandma and grandpa or Aunt Susie are approved daycare providers. That's pretty much it. We can't put, at least here in Florida, we can't put like grandma and grandpa will have time sharing with the child, da da da. No, because grandma and grandpa have no rights in this case, in this parenting plan. They're not a party. They're not an issue. They don't have rights to have time sharing, but we can put them in there as far as, like I said, as far as pick up and drop off and approved childcare. So, but yeah, it's always great, isn't it, to have Marissa, to have what do I want to say? A support system that you can lean on for these things, for pick up, drop off, childcare, all that. I'm always envious of people that have them nearby. When I was raising my son, Me and my husband and him. That was it. We didn't have this. So our son went everywhere with us. I think he kind of got sick of it, but it was okay. We went everywhere together because we didn't have the great support system of grandparents or other family members nearby. So, kudos to you for having that ability. So, great question, Marissa. I appreciate that. So number of overnights, that's really crucial in calculating child support. So let's say you're doing 50-50 time sharing. Just as an example, because I'm horrible in math because I'm just an attorney. So that would mean that each of you would have 182.5. Yep, there's a point 0.5 there because we have 365 days. So you'd each have 182.5. So when we calculate child support, then we put that number in there because the more overnights you have, the less child support there is. Now, I want to dispel a myth. A lot of my clients think, oh, 50-50 time sharing, great. Oh, there's no child support. That's not the case. There could still be child support. So we always just run the guidelines and see what they are based on the number of overnights. So that's why number of overnights are so important. You're thinking, who needs to know the number of overnights I have my children? We do, so we can calculate child support. So um, anyway, then we talk about transportation. And Marissa, this is where it's fabulous with your question kind of comes in. Transportation. Parent shall provide the transportation. The parent beginning their time sharing shall provide, the parent ending, or other. That's where the other would come in. Other. Approved picker uppers or approved dropper offers. And you can list people there where you've both agreed that, hey, maybe the new wife or the new husband or grandma and grandpa or aunt, uncle, cousin, whoever can pick up. So that's where you can put that in there. Then we have the exchanges. Where are we going to exchange these children? Now, 9 times out of 10, we have it from school, right? Because that seems to be the easiest thing. But sometimes they're out of school or that's not possible. Then where are we going to exchange? Are we going to exchange at the parents' homes? Are we going to exchange someplace else? A lot of times, maybe if there's a little distance, maybe they meet halfway at like what do we have here in Florida? A Wawa or a 7-Eleven or something like that. In extreme cases where we have parents that really don't get along, we'll maybe do it at like a police substation. Not that they go into the substation, but they at least are in the parking lot. So if something happens, the police are right there. People like to have cameras too. And I mean, come on, in every parking lot nowadays, there's cameras, right? Walmart, Target, 7-Eleven, there's cameras everywhere. So it doesn't, if you just want a camera, but if you want that kind of that protection, then we'll do it at a police substation. So transportation costs, that really comes into play when you've got long distance, when you have a parent who lives out of state. Okay, who's going to fly the children back and forth? Are we going to split it? What are we going to do? How are we going to do this? Because as you know, airline tickets are quite pricey these days. So to get, and then especially if you're looking at summer, Christmas, Thanksgiving, spring break, the price of a regular ticket on a Monday, um, September 9th is probably much lower than it is December 21st, right? I mean, it's more expensive. So you kind of want to plan that ahead of time so you spend less money so you can buy that ticket ahead of time. Although I was supposed to go to Canada for Christmas, I purchased my tickets, gosh, over the summer, canceled, right? The day before I was supposed to leave, but I had to deal with that. But anyway, spending that money, who's going to spend that money? Are you going to fly them out? And then are they going to fly them back? Also, are they flying by themselves? Are they unaccompanied minors? Or are the parents going to fly with them? So generally, when the parents fly with them, the parents pay their own round ticket, but they still got to pay, half and half or whatever y'all decide. One parent pays the entire amount. Next time, the other one pays the entire amount. It's something that needs to be decided either between yourselves or the court will decide. So this is another one that we have that's a hot topic: foreign and out of state travel. For those of us who love to travel outside the United States, love to travel within the United States, and we like to take our kids along. Like I said, my son went everywhere with us, a poor kid, but he had a good time. He saw a lot. So we can start with within the United States. The child should be able to travel with a parent throughout the United States. Hey, I live in Florida. I want to take the child to Yellowstone National Park. So during my time sharing, it should not interfere with the other parent's time sharing unless they give you permission. Yeah, it's okay. It's good that he's going to Yellowstone. He can see a bunch of buffalo. But you need to give the other parent the information. When are you leaving? When are you coming back? What airline? What hotel? What number is, I mean, we have cell phones now, so it's really not an issue, but what number is the best? All of those kind of things need to be established. So that's what this says, is that the parent traveling with the child should give the other parent at least how many days written notice, um, unless there's an emergency, like maybe there's a sudden death in the family and you need to quickly get out, and detailed itinerary, locations, telephone numbers, where they can be reached, all of that. Also, if you're going out of the country, you're taking the child out of the country. Hey, I want to go visit my family in Canada. So that's out of the country, even though it's attached to us, but it is out of the country. What are you going to need when you travel out of the country? A passport. So again, here we go with the passport, making sure the child has a passport. One parent will usually hold that passport, and then the other parent can ask for that passport, and the one parent should be giving it to the other parent within reasonable notice, and then the parent can return it to that other parent. So again, giving the detailed information. When are you leaving? When are you coming back? What airline? What hotel? Where's the telephone number in case your cell phone doesn't work, out of the country, which mine seems to have no problem with that. But you never know with the service and stuff. So how can they best get a hold of you? Through WhatsApp, maybe even setting that up. WhatsApp seems to be a fabulous thing to do out of the country. So that's where that covers. Then we talk about education and designation for legal purposes. So what does that mean? Education. Education. What is the school that the child is going to be going to? Whose school district? Are we going to use mom's address? Or are we going to use dad's address? So we need to decide that. Now, if mom and dad are in the same school district, fabulous, but it still needs to be established whose address are we going to use, because right, the school needs to know where to send stuff. We need an address. So who is it going to be, mom or dad? So if it's a private school, okay, what's going to be the provisions in regarding to that? Because you don't really need to be in a school district to attend a private school. So what are the provisions for that? And if there's anything else that needs to be covered. Also, designation for legal purposes. That means, just like with the school, whose address is going to be used strictly for legal purposes. When you go to fill out the doctor's information, when you go to fill out anything else, that we use this address for legal purposes. So whose address does the child live or collect their mail, or things should be mailed to? Has nothing to do with who has more power, who has more control. Nothing whatsoever. It just has to do with, where are we sending this child? Where are we sending stuff for this child? So for school, for other things. Okay. Then we talk about communication, both between the parents and between the children and the parent. Communication, communication, communication. I can't say it enough. We need to communicate. Parents need to communicate. So we should have communication between the parents. How are they going to communicate with each other? Most of the time it says, hey, I'll send them, I'll talk to them in person, telephone, letter, although I don't really think we do letters nowadays, but you never know. Email, text message, whatever it may be. Now, if the parents can't seem to communicate well, sometimes the court will designate, or the parties will agree, an app that they can use, talking parents, whatever it may be. So everything that they do is recorded, because I've dealt with enough text messages in my life in court, and text messages get cut off and you can't really keep track of, and you're not really sure if you're getting the entire text message conversation. These apps, you can print them out and they're beautiful. They're just a step-by-step chronological order. They're fabulous. So that's how we deal with communication between the parents. Now, communication. Oh, hi as well. Oh my gosh, I love your picture. It looks so soothing and so kumbaya. So I appreciate you taking the time out of doing that to talk to me. Hi, Attorney Sterling. What happens if my ex-husband and I cannot agree on a parenting plan? Fabulous question. You got to go in front of a judge, and the judge will decide your parenting plan. Now, I always try to discourage my clients from doing that, because Do you really want a stranger that's wearing a black robe deciding all of these issues in regards to you and your children? You should be able to do that on your own, right? You should be able to know, as both parents, what should be best for your children. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen as it appears with you. Azul, I hope I'm saying your name right. Um, it isn't, if it isn't happening for you, you always have that recourse of going in front of the judge, presenting your testimony, him presenting his testimony and evidence, and letting the judge decide that parenting plan. Right now, I have a case where a divorce, they agreed on all the property and all that, but they couldn't agree on the time sharing. They couldn't agree on the parenting plan. And we had to have a trial in front of a judge so she could make the parenting plan. I haven't received it yet. Takes a little longer if you have the court do it. But once we receive it, then that's it. That's a contract. That's what you got to live with, unless there's a change or you want to appeal it or whatever it is. But yes, very good question. I'm glad you brought that up. Now we have conversation between the parent and the children. This is always a hot topic too. Well, I want to be able to call my children anytime. Well, that's nice, but your children do attend school, I hope, and they do have extracurriculars as we set up above. So anytime is probably not feasible. And because what if they're in school, or what if their little Johnny is at his piano lesson, or whatever, that we have that communication kind of spelled out, like maybe every day from 7 to 7:30, or every day at 7 a.m. and then 7 p.m. Now, putting down a time frame, like if we say, oh, you can talk between 7 and 7:30, or talk from 7 to 7:30. Those of you who have kids, even mine, do you keep them on? Are they able to stay on the phone for 30 minutes? Yeah, well, I'm lucky if I get 15 is actually a long phone call with mine. So, and then if you have little ones, they're not even, you'll maybe do a FaceTime and they'll be off playing with their little Legos or off playing with their little toys, and they're really not paying attention. So you can't, it's hard with kids to kind of keep them on the phone, but that you have at least that time frame to call them and talk to them and find out how their day was, and get communication from them. So it's a good time to, it's a good time to spend with them, and also you can spell it out here. Cost of electronic communication. I mean, who's going to pay for the cell phone? Are you going to split it? Is one of you going to pay for it? Whatever. One thing I want to also discuss with you is, don't take that phone away as punishment. Okay, here, you got an F on your test. I'm putting the phone away. You can do that, but if you have times that that child can talk to the other parent, take that phone, give it to the child so they can talk to their parent, take it away once they're done. So they should still have access to that parent, whether that parent call you on your phone or whether you give that phone back to them so they can call on their parent, talk to the other parent. But don't use it as punishment where they can't talk to the other parent because they failed a test or they did something wrong. I get it, putting that phone away for punishment, but allowing them still to talk to the other parent. So then we have child care. And Marissa, this addresses your question. Each parent may select appropriate child care providers. They must be agreed. Each parent must offer the other parent the opportunity to watch the child, which is kind of difficult when you're working, or other. And this is a great place where you can put grandparents are approved child care providers. Cousin Jimmy is an appropriate daycare provider or child care provider. You can put that in there. Generally, it's a good idea for you to approve it, so one parent can meet. If it's a daycare, go and the other parent's involved and is on there as an emergency contact and a pickup and all that. Or if it's a private person, that they're able to meet that person and see who they are and approve them. Both parents should be involved in that. So making sure that they're involved. So we talked about changes or modifications of the parenting plan. Temporary changes are just fine. They can be informal. You two are agreeing on something, but this is going to be the ultimate. And then any substantial change would be a supplemental petition for modification, saying there's been a significant change in circumstance. Maybe somebody moved out of the school district or something like that. Then we have relocation. This is a whole nother, I'll talk about this in another, maybe this is something I'll talk about next month, gives me an idea. Relocation, any relocation of the children that are subject to this parenting plan. If you move You must be in compliance with 61.13001, which is the statute here in the state of Florida. What it says is if you move more than 50 miles from your current place of residence, you have to do a petition to relocate. And that doesn't mean 50 miles by what is it, MapQuest or Google Map or your iPhone or whatever. It's as the crow flies. So go, the crow is flying and you're more than 50 miles away. One time I had a judge tell me, "Oh, well, Miss Sterling, I just go by the courthouse and I just draw a circle." I go, "No, that's not what the statute says. The statute says from your place." So if you live in Orlando and you want to move to Miami, you got to file a petition to relocate. Number one, what are you going to do about the timesharing plan? Now, of course, you serve it on the other person. If they agree and you can come up with a good alternate parenting plan, that's fine. And we'll talk about that next month. I'll get into that a little more next month. But that's a petition to relocate. We'll talk about that next month because people are moving a lot. We're very mobile and we're not staying put as we used to. So this is kind of an interesting topic. Um, okay, any disputes or conflicts or anything, either you can agree to, go to mediation or go back in front of the judge, or you hire an attorney and you try to mediate the issue together. So it's really up to you. Now, there's some other provisions. There's the medical. Okay, my child has some medical needs. My child needs to get glasses. My child needs to get braces. My child needs to get a surgery. So the medical and the taxes, who's going to claim the child on taxes? So for medical, what it is generally we do it split 50-50. One parent pays 50%, the other pays 50%. Let me tell you what happens. I always get one parent saying, "Oh, well, they don't really need braces. Oh, well, they don't really need glasses. Oh, well, they don't really need that surgery." I always say, "Oh, are they a dentist? Are they what is it, an ophthalmologist? Are they a surgeon? I mean, where is this coming from?" Yeah. And even when I bring it in front of the judge will say the same thing. "Are you a dentist?" I have the report from the dentist saying they need braces. They need braces. They're the medical professional. They need the braces. So you're going to be hard pressed to fight that saying, "Well, I don't think they need it." Well, I'm sorry, your education is in what? So generally, medical is split 50-50. When I say medical, I mean uncovered medical expenses. If you're the one that's paying the health insurance, that generally is calculated in the child support because you get some money from the spouse, the other parent in that child support calculation for that medical insurance. Now taxes. Whew, again, I got to take a drink for this one. Taxes. Who's going to claim these children on their taxes? Listen, the IRS has certain guidelines, correct? They don't care who claims the kids. Whoever files their tax return first is getting it. Now, you can always dispute it with the IRS, and you know how long that takes for the IRS to take that on. But you can get a court order that says who is going to claim these children. Is one parent going to claim them all? Are you going to split them? Are you going to rotate them? What are you going to do? And what is your recourse? So if in your parenting plan, it says mom is going to claim the children every year and dad claims them one year, you going to the IRS is going to take a very long time. And the IRS is going to require all this information and they may or may not approve you. This is where you can go to court and say, "Listen, I have a contract, I have my parenting plan, and you said that I could claim the children every year, and he claimed them this year. So what's the relief I'm seeking? I want the refund. I want him to give me the refund." That's something that you can do. The IRS is going to, okay, does it fit this criteria? They don't care about the court order. You can send them the court order. I don't know, they'll use it for scrap paper, but they're going to look at the law, the IRS law. So that's what we generally do. We'll say, okay, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? Are we going to split it? Are we going to rotate it? Is one parent, does not, maybe one parent doesn't file taxes. So why would they claim the children? The other parent that does file taxes will claim the children. So it really just depends on what your certain situation is. So, oh, I see Claudia just as I popped in. You can remove this. My I-team, you can remove the parenting plan from the screen. Hello, there I am again. Hello, Attorney Sterling. I have a question. Hi, Claudio. I like your emoji. That's really interesting. What happens if one parent violates the term of the parenting plan? A very good question. Think of, like I said, the parenting plan is a contract. So if you violate it, what is your recourse? If somebody violates a contract, what's the recourse? You get sued, right? They sue you. You purchase a car, you sign the contract, but you don't abide by it. So they sue you. They come, they repossess the car, they sue you for whatever money is left over on the car because you signed that contract. The parenting plan, if both of you sign it or the court issues it, which makes it a court order, your recourse is to go to court to say, just like I said, like with the tax return. Okay, in the parenting plan, we either agreed or the court ordered that I could claim the children. He claimed them. Judge, he claimed them. He violated the court order. He violated the agreement. I want that refund or I want that recourse. So it's called a motion for enforcement. We're enforcing that court order or we're enforcing that parenting plan. We file it with the court. You can even ask for attorney fees because what we look at as but for the violation of the court order or the violation of the agreement, I wouldn't have had to hire an attorney and I wouldn't be here right now because he's not following. So it's called a motion for enforcement, a motion for contempt. So very good question. Thank you so much for asking that. Okay, so it looks like I've covered, have I hit on all the questions I think that everybody has? I want to make sure that I answer all your questions. A parenting plan and dealing with parenting plans. It's difficult a lot of times because it's very emotional, right? These are our children. As a mother, you're a mama bear. As a daddy, you're a daddy bear. You're a papa bear. And these are our children. It can be a very, very emotional time in dealing with separating and trying to handle what you're going to do with your children and having to deal with the other parent. Maybe you're not too friendly with the other parent, but having to deal with them. And so this parenting plan helps you with that and helps the both of you get through it. Now, I get a lot of clients that say, well, he's not following the parenting plan, but I don't want to fight. But then who suffers? You suffer because maybe you're having to pay a bulk of everything. Or maybe you suffer because you don't get as much time sharing with the child because they're not following the time sharing schedule. So make sure that, this is about your child and about the best interest of your child. And that's why we have these parenting plans. And that's why we have children spend time with both parents. The court really looks at it as this child needs to spend as much time as possible with both parents. That's what they need. They need mom in their life and they need dad in their life. Of course, there's exceptions, as there always is, but that's what they look at. One time I was sitting and waiting for my case to start, and there was a case ahead of me. The parents had reached an agreement. And so they were going in front of the judge to finalize their parenting plan or their agreement. And the parenting plan was that the child, 8-year-old child, would spend 30 days with mom and 30 days with dad. And the judge went, hold on. No, 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 no. I cannot accept this agreement. I cannot issue an order based on this agreement, especially for an 8-year-old to spend 30 days without seeing one parent. That's not in the child's best interest. Now, maybe in the parents, it may be most convenient for us, but the court doesn't look at what's convenient for us. They look at what's in the best interest of the children or the child. What can we do here? Is 30 days without physically seeing the other parent, is that in the child's best interest? No, of course not. They should be able, where they've seen mom and dad every day their whole life, and now all of a sudden they're going 30 days without seeing one. So the court really looks at the best interest of the child. And again, like I said, there's lots of circumstances out there that maybe aren't really that and don't require that, or maybe the other parent can't see the child for whatever reason. There's always those circumstances, and those are best to discuss with an attorney. But in majority of cases, it's the best interest of the child. So again, I want to thank you all for being a part of my live and being a part of our family here at Terrell and Sterling. We really enjoy that I hope you got a lot out of today. Again, if you have any issues and you live in the state of Florida, because that's all I can help you with, you give our office a call. We'd be more than happy to sit down and talk to you about your individual case. I'm so glad that you all joined me. It's great to see you, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.